Welcome to What the World Needs Now with hosts Tom Whisinnand and Josh Monroe.
In this episode, we talked to Susan Jachymiak, a math teacher from Illinois, about how she maintains a positive attitude and uses social media to connect with other educators.
Susan, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. For our listeners that don't have the honor and privilege of knowing who you are, could you introduce yourself to us? Who are you? Where are you from? And what's your role in education?
Yeah, hi, I'm Susan Jachymiak. I have a Twitter, which I'll talk about later, but I am currently a fifth-year teacher in Illinois. I teach in Joliet, and I love what I do. I know I'm learning the ropes as I go because obviously I'm newer to the profession, but I'm excited to continue spreading hopefully positivity and joy and just seeing where education is going to go from here.
So you've been in it now. This is your fifth year. You were just kind of brand new when the pandemic hit, and you muddled your way just like all of us did, right, through the
Mhm.
insane craziness that was COVID. What on the other side, as a newer teacher, how are you feeling? You feeling okay? Are you doing okay? Is it neat to get back to what you kind of thought maybe you were signing up for to start with?
Yeah, I was, when I started, I had one full year and then the pandemic hit, which obviously changed everything for everybody. So navigating that and figuring out the virtual realm, because going out of college, you're used to technology. So I felt like that was something that I was good at. But then navigating all the other like Zoom and getting kids to do their work and all that was definitely a challenge. I just read something like a quote that said in the rush to normal that we have to really focus on what we're returning back to, and to really ponder that. And I was thinking a lot about education and how some things were great, like virtual parent teacher conferences and all that. And then some things obviously are better face to face and in person. But it just made me think about that quote and like, what are we actually trying to progress towards, especially now as we're heading somewhat back to normalcy and, continuing in person learning.
I love that quote. Do you happen to know where you read that from?
I think it's from Dave Hollis because I think I was reading something on social media and it popped up. And so I have it saved on my phone.
Yeah, what an awesome quote for us to reflect on, that we don't have to go back to exactly how it was, because there were for sure things that needed to change.
Mhm.
And COVID really brought that to the front light for us.
Yeah.
So Susan, curious, 5 years in, what's been the highlight of your career so far?
I think it's honestly the kids. I think students make it worthwhile, if we're dealing with all the ever changing pressure and stress sometimes, just seeing the kids light up when you walk in or that they're excited about what you're teaching them. And those face to face, like in person positive relationships that we get to build. I think that definitely keeps me going because really we do it for the students, we're in it for the students. So keeping the focus on the kids definitely gives me a fresh perspective and gets me excited to go to work every day.
I don't know what teaching would be without students. If it's kids, if you teach elementary school or middle school or high school or even adults as you get into higher ed, right? Like having students and building those relationships and watching the growth. I think you're absolutely spot on. Is like absolutely the reward in itself. I have to ask, 5 years in, what made you want to join education? What made you want to be a teacher? You're very passionate about it. People follow you on Twitter, and it's just amazing, the presence you have there. But what made you want to get into education in the first place?
Yeah, so I had amazing teachers growing up, and I wanted to teach since I was a kid. Like I was playing school with my younger sister, and I knew I had that in me. Like I was really excited and creating lessons for her, and she was probably tired of me doing the same thing all the time with her. But then I had great teachers growing up, so I was watching them teach, and I was like, "Oh, that seems like something I would be interested in." And I didn't really fully decide until high school because I started doing a teaching internship and then continuing my major in education, and I still loved it. So I had that passion since I was a kid, but I definitely credit a lot to my former teachers because they didn't give up on me. So then it's something that pushes me forward. Like if they didn't give up, then, I want to be that for my students now. So it was sort of my inspiration. And if I'm ever having a rough day, I always think back to my why, and they're definitely part of that.
That's a big part in teaching, with, like you were saying, all the pressures that are piled upon us, all the new hats that we are asked to
Mhm.
continue to put on. We don't get to take any off. We're just continuing to put them on. It's important to remember your why, because on those hard days, it's easy to forget it. And it's easy to be negative about all that we have to take on. So there's been a problem in America with the teacher shortage, and it's not new, but now people are starting to realize what teachers have been saying for a long time. We can't keep putting these hats on without balancing our plates in some way. So in your eyes, what do you think we need to do as a society to start getting people to view teaching as a career path again?
Yeah, that's a hard question. Because you know what, there's so many aspects of it. And I know that like I talk to teachers at my school and they're all happy, but then we also feel like the burnout, I think because of the pandemic, I think that escalated more because we're still recovering and trying to keep going with everything else that we did before. And, you know, obviously we want newer teachers, we want people to stay in the profession, but, you know, the respect piece goes in hand. Just having good leadership at the schools, like good admin that understand what teachers are going through makes a huge difference, because that encourages teachers to stay and want to keep coming. But it's hard coming up with like that, you know, easy fix, because there isn't one right now. So just trying to seeing what happens isn't going to be the solution, but, you know, encouraging newer teachers and, you know, being that positive force. You know, I know that positivity isn't going to fix anything right now either, because, you know, it just seems like we're also like trying to do what we do, navigate the trenches of being in the classroom, and nobody really wants to be positive from what I've noticed like lately, because it just feels like a lot, especially after the pandemic. So just trying to kind of navigate that, you know, and trying to be positive also, because you want people to still view education as a good career path.
Yeah. We would need like 3 hours to really hash out what we can do, right, as a society to correct some of this stuff. One thing you said that I absolutely admire in you is your positivity on Twitter. I also admire your just honesty. And, you know, it's okay to feel burnout. It's okay to feel tired. It's okay to feel sometimes that we're not doing enough in education. And I really admire the fact that you know, you're just real and honest and authentic. So what can we as professional educators ourselves do to like inspire other educators, or to get them to, and I'm not saying like this toxic positivity needs to be abounding, but I think there is power in like being a beacon, being a light, sharing our good that we're doing in our classroom with other people, and not in a haha look at me way, but like here's something good in education kind of way. What are some ways that maybe we could help bring that top-notch talent like to education as educators ourselves?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously we always model for our kids, like we like to model lessons. And I think a lot of that comes from, you know, wanting to be that source of positivity, wanting to support people, because we have a lot of newer teachers in my school right now. So I try to like talk to them and, you know, hear them out and kind of give them advice, even though obviously in my 5th year, I don't know everything, but trying to, you know, give that advice and support so that they see that there's people that want to help. We want good educators in the profession, and obviously like professors have a lot, because they're, you know, obviously the first kind of the beacon of hope in that sense, because they are, you know, getting these newer teachers prepared for the classroom. And, you know, it is a lot of, I think, comes down to support, like having that support in place, making sure that newer teachers and people in education, teachers in education, feel supported from the beginning, and they continue to feel that support. And it's not just that they're invisible or that they don't feel like they belong on campus or in the classroom. Like you want to make sure that they know that they have a voice and that their thoughts do matter. And it's not just something that they, you know, come to work, but they also want to have input and discipline or the lessons. Like they want to have a voice in the building. So promoting that and making sure that the staff knows that there's that support, I think will go a long way in recruiting and keeping and retaining educators throughout their career.
I like that you talked about how we model things for kids, right? Like what we do with kids should be what we do with adults. Obviously, it's going to look and sound a lot different, but we need to model what we want and expect. And you keep saying you're a fifth year teacher and you don't know. I already look up to you, right? Like you've got a lot of experience that other teachers don't. You were right before COVID, you lived COVID, now you're on the other side. So I think you're a great example of what we need to be doing to promote good teachers and top-notch teachers. Has there, for you, has there ever been a time when you maybe didn't feel so much positivity coming out, or you forgot your why or your inspiration? Because I sat down with my principal today to do this evaluation, but he gave me a welcome interview. And one of his questions was, when was the last time you wanted to leave teaching? And I had to sit there for a second and think, have I ever really wanted to? And I went straight to COVID. And I don't like that I did that. But that's where that was a time in my career where I did forget my why. And I had to, when we came back, I really had to remind myself. And that's when Tom and I started this project of talking to inspirational teachers, and it helped remind me of that why. Has there ever been a time for you when that light maybe started to dwindle a little?
Yeah, and I think, I think the light kind of ebbs and flows throughout, the year. I think there's times where like it's December and it's almost winter break where you're like ready for that break in anticipation of a longer break. And then I think it kind of comes back throughout the year. But whenever I have those days, like I think about the kids, like if there's a kid that's smiling or just says something or compliments, a teacher in some way, it just gets me excited, or if they're just really focused on the work. And sometimes it's other educators or admin in the building that are just super positive, or that they're seeing that you might need a little bit of boost of encouragement and they're trying to provide that in some way. Like that's something that can rekindle that spark just for, a day, but then it can last longer when that people are there to support and encourage. We all have days where it's really hard, and there's days that are difficult in education, but we need to rely on each other to get us through it, because we all deal with it in some capacity, whether or not we know the exact situation going on. But just trying to be, positive, and then trying to just find that spark. Like I always look back on either emails I have from my teachers that I saved from a long time ago, or something from a kid that I have in my little box of notes from students in the past. And I'll look at that if I'm having one of those days, and it always reminds me like of why I am in it. And why I'm in education, and then it keeps me going. So sometimes just having that little reminder of your why definitely helps.
Josh and I have why walls in our room, and I have a little shelf, and Rocco's house is there. And Rocco was a house that was built from a kid who got a pet rock, and he would rather build a Rocco house instead of do his math. Now he got his math done, but it helps me refocus on that why, and remember that I'm on a journey with these kids, and yes, it's about academics, but it's about so much more than that. And then, like you said, finding those little pockets of sunshine, noticing that somebody smiled at you, noticing that a kid's given a compliment, finding those little pockets of sunshine it's necessary. What are some other ways you stay inspired? Are there books that you read? Are there people you follow on social media? Like, are there activities that you do? How do you find that inspiration?
Yeah, so when I started, I was joining Twitter, but I wasn't really active. Like I was kind of watching people do Twitter chats, and then I started just jumping in. And ever since then, like I feel like I did a whole 360, because I was very introverted, and now I like talking to people on social media or in real life. And I do a podcast that I'm slowly getting back into, because it kind of had to pause during COVID and just being in grad school and getting my master's. I didn't feel like taking on another thing. So I'm slowly getting back into that. And that helps me remember my why as well. Because when I talk to educators, like if I'm having a week where I'm like, okay, I'm really stressed, I'm tired, I don't want to record, then I get on the conversation. I'm like, oh yeah, right. Like I like these conversations. They keep me going throughout the week. But also like any books, like I really like the Teach Better team. I'm really into like anything by Todd Nesloney, like Kids Deserve It. Adam Welcome, all those Teach Like a Pirate series. I'm very into those books and I've been reading a lot on those. And then connecting with those authors on Twitter gives me a whole different perspective because then you get to interact with them. And Twitter is a huge, huge positive because I feel like, I feel supported on Twitter sometimes more than in other places because you don't always get that community feel. And when you have teachers that have supported me since the beginning and now they see me grow up and like navigate teaching throughout all of that and the COVID era and, all that stuff going on. It's cool to just have that kind of Twitter professional learning network to lean on those days they're hard or on those days they're going well. Just they've seen my growth since the beginning. So it's really cool to be able to connect and continue to be on there because it is something that I wish every teacher was on Twitter because I really do think it benefits me so much within the few years I've been on the social media site.
Well, I gotta ask, do you ever get any pushback on anything that you put out, or like people come at you with the toxic positivity talk or anything like that?
You know what? I've been fortunate enough to stay on education Twitter, which has been different than, when a tweet goes viral or a lot of people are spreading it. I had that kind of happen with one of my quotes that then got misconstrued and then other people were commenting and I was like, okay, I'm not ready for that yet. So I had to, but then when it is positive and when, I kind of had to filter that because I know that people know I'm positive on Twitter, at least I hope I come off that way, but I also like to be real so they know that it's coming from a newer teacher that's excited and, sometimes they're not everybody is excited about the year and, so I have to filter that and figure out when is the best time to put things out. But I really do go day by day. And if it is negative, I kind of learn to deal with it because that's what you have to do. I mean, they don't know me as a person. So, yes, like I like to respond and in a polite way and obviously like have a conversation with whoever it is. But I don't really get a lot of negativity at the moment. Now, obviously that could change as the years go on. But for now, it seems like it's pretty positive and it's taken the right way. And again, having that network of educators that support me, even if it did go the opposite direction, I think I would have hopefully some people that would back me up with whatever it is that I'm trying to convey. So that helps.
Awesome. I was just curious because on TikTok, like you were saying, if something goes viral, you get people that don't interact with your content a lot. All of a sudden they're in there chirping about they know this, they know that, what about this? And sometimes that can be hard. So I was just wondering the ways that you handle that. But I also like the fact that you said it is a network, whatever social media platform you're on, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, if you can find a network of educators that are like-minded, it makes that journey on social media so much easier and so much more worthwhile as you put stuff out and as you grow with that network.
I would agree. And I think if there's something that came out of COVID that's a positive, Josh and Susan, I think people's ability to understand social media and use it for the positive, man, that is it's mushroomed. And I think it is so powerful if, like you said, Josh, you find those people who are like-minded and they're, huge advocates for education. I think that's just ultra, ultra, ultra powerful for sure.
Susan, I gotta know the ways, because your inspiration comes through the screen, your positivity is radiant. I'm curious, when you get in that classroom, how do you build relationships with students? How do you build that trust with them?
Yeah, so I co-teach right now. We've been co-teaching for a while since the pandemic, and my co-teacher is super funny, has humor, just makes the kids laugh all the time. And I'm not funny. Like I try to be, but it's not my cup of tea. So they know that though, and the kids react well to him. And then, they're positive with me and they understand that I'm just going to be the one who will be sarcastic sometimes, like in a nice way, and just have that more positivity shining through. Whereas he'll make a joke out of, anything and the kids react really in a humor, just they enjoy it because they know they're going to laugh during our class. So, trying to just build those positive relationships with the kids. They know our vibe and they know our energy. So they figure us out really quick. And they, I just try to just be as kind, obviously, like, have that positive personality shine through in the classroom, because I know the kids react well to that. And I'm very much an introverted educator. So I do have that outgoing personality when I teach, but then the kids know that I'm more quiet and I'm more, have that quieter personality. So I think the quieter kids also feel confident in asking me questions, because they know that I understand what they're going through. So they can talk to me about those things, or if they're afraid to answer or raise their hand, like I understand where they're coming from. So a lot of our teaching style kind of meshed, and we figured out a way to make it work. And the kids react well, and they're excited to come, and they know that they have two very different personalities, but we're making it work. And just showing the kids you care is a huge thing. Like if the kids know you care about them and they want to come to your class, that makes a huge difference in how they learn, and that excitement for the subject, because math is not everybody's favorite. And our kids tell us that all the time, that they don't like math. But then when they have us, they're like, yeah, maybe math isn't my favorite, but then they like us. So they try to understand it and try to grow that love for math throughout the year. And some kids have walked away liking it at the end. So, we're just trying to have positivity, have a little fun, and learn math at the same time. And so far it's working.
I mean, that's great to hear. Great to hear. Because honestly, math can be tricky. Math can be tough. And if you have some engaging teachers to help you understand math, oh, what a gift. That is so cool. That is so cool. And I bet just seeing the kids after a whole year of growth and then them leaving, I bet that's just absolutely rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Your fifth year, what are some of the cool apps you use? Are there any apps that are just like mind blowing, or any curriculums that you've used that really inspire kids, that bring out the best in them?
Yeah, I really like Desmos for math. We've been using Braining Camp. That came out, I think, a couple years ago, and it's kind of an interactive like whiteboard for the students, but they have virtual manipulatives. So we let them navigate that. Like it has all the little Unifix cubes and all the stuff that we would do in person. And the kids are really enjoying exploring that and navigating that platform. I like Google Classroom. I like to respond in Cami a lot with my voice, like for comments if I'm grading, because we use a lot of Cami, because we kind of switched to a digital realm after COVID, because we figured the kids wouldn't lose the papers. So we've been doing a lot of digital work and then grading digitally and responding with our voice or with a video. And the kids like to hear our voice if we're talking through a problem with them that they could respond to. So it's, that I think the digital technology is definitely, advanced. And I think the way we use it is different. Like I'm not trying to just use it for the sake of using it, but that it benefits us, benefits the kids. So if they're using Cami and we're able to provide that instant feedback from one of the teachers that are in the room, it benefits the kids because they see that feedback right away and they ask like, oh, what happened here? And we could have that conversation. Whereas if they turn in a paper, it takes a few days for us to get back. And then by the time the assignment gets back, they forgot what we did. And it's just a cycle of not, really effectively learning as much because they don't get that instantaneous feedback.
Yeah, I like the not just using technology for the sake of using it. I think that that's really important in education. We can substitute an iPad for nearly anything, but is what we're doing going to enhance that learning? And if it's not, is it really worth it then? One of those moments when we reflect back on this conversation, you said at the beginning, like education doesn't have to go back to how it was pre-COVID. And I think that technology and our understanding of that is a great platform to jump off from to move forward.
Oh, Susan, at the end of every episode, we ask one final question. And I love this question, and we've gotten all different kinds of answers. And you can answer it however you want, but what does the world need now in the realm of education, outside of education, on our planet today? What do we need? What does the world need now?
You know what? I think it goes down to kindness. I see a lot of negativity, and it's not, within, I guess, my realm, but I think it's on social media. I think it's on any outlet. I think sometimes it's teachers, sometimes it's different people that just have things to say that are not in education. Or we have a bad day and then we're venting and, it rubs off on us because it does affect other people's mood. Like if someone's complaining, it kind of takes a toll on your happiness for that day and makes you think about that. So I just think being kind, I think it's seen as like not a, I don't know if we went the wrong way with that, but it's just when someone's kind, I think people see it as rubbing the wrong way or they're not used to it. But I think just being kind to others and making their day somehow, I think that's what the world needs at the moment. Like we just need kindness. I think everybody does. And, if we could just pause even in traffic or whatever it is that we're navigating to just be kind and let someone in or let someone merge, or even in the classroom, just helping out a kid or just smiling at a staff member, like just something to keep them going, because sometimes we just focus on ourselves because we got so busy in our own life and, we just don't think about others. But I think, just kind of going that route more or being more intentional about how we do it would be beneficial.
Susan, did somebody not let you merge in today?
No, but when you're driving, things happen. So I'm stuck in traffic a lot. So, I have time to ponder this.
Oh,
that's definitely important. Definitely important though.
And you're 100% right about when somebody else is constantly complaining, that weighs on us in a negative way. And we're not responsible for somebody else's feelings or for what somebody else says, but it does weigh on us. Susan, I'm sure you've heard of this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it because I read it last week and I tried it and I made it till the very end of the day, but it's 24 hours of no complaining at all. And so I don't know, I'm going to try it again tomorrow after this conversation, because this is the time of the week that Tom and I really feel inspired and get pumped up. I feel like after this, I can make it the full 24 hours. I was about 20 hours in and then I slipped. So I'm going to give it another go. I'm going to try to show the world a lot more kindness with my no complaining at all.
I love it. Susan, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time. Have a great rest of your week and keep up the excellent work.
Thank you, Susan. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. We're so thankful and appreciative that you took your time to listen.
Hopefully you're ready for another week of changing lives, and hopefully what the world needs now is helping you to sustain your inspiration as we journey through this school year together. If it is, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps us to get inspirational educators' stories out.
We hope that as you head out, you remember the biggest factor that plays into student success is you. Your love, your passion, your empathy, your dedication is exactly what the world needs now. Thank you for all you do. Have a good one.